We're starting off with one of the headlines that affects a lot of people, even if you're not a student or actively have a student. Your kids might be about to go to college, in college, or paying off on their student loans right now. If not, some of you are already in the grandkids phase, and they're about to go to college, or maybe in college, or maybe paying on their student loans. But this is a wide-ranging topic because it also just speaks to the larger air of accountability. And it's a good economic topic that some of these issues with student loans reverberate across other industries as well. And there's a lot of good lessons and really painful lessons that we should learn from this. The way you get something to be cheaper is not by throwing money at it, not by throwing taxpayer money at it, not by subsidizing it. You subsidize something, it gets more expensive. Can we all learn this lesson now? But let's focus on this story at hand, and we'll worry about extrapolating it out later. Because first, I love this topic. Student debt collectors resume today. It's been paused since COVID, and it keeps getting extended. And then the Biden administration said, okay, even though it expired and, past what Congress said it was going to be delayed for, we're just not going to enforce it anyway. We're just going to choose to not enforce that law. And so, what manner of lawlessness is this, where you can just pick and choose what laws you enforce? Okay, so it was another one of those situations, and it finally starts back on today. And I love talking about this because in America in 2025, is there a group of people you feel sorry for less than people who owe on their student loans? I'm having a hard time with it. Like professional athletes, maybe. That might be the only group I feel. Pop stars, people who inherit millions of dollars. I mean, you are the elite on planet Earth in the most prosperous country in all of human civilization right now in 2025. If you have gone to some college in America, you are probably living a pretty sweet life. Now, if you are not living a sweet life and that didn't work out for you, not my problem. That's not your problem either, is it? That's the college's problem. That's the student's problem. Did the college not give you the skills you needed to pay that loan back? Did you not buckle down and study and complete that course? Did you choose a brain-dead, worthless major that wasn't ever going to make money anyway and get in a whole bunch of debt pursuing it? Because we have millions of student loan borrowers out there. 42.7 million borrowers are out there right now. A little more than 5 million of them are delinquent. That means over 360 days, over a year. I don't know why 360 days. Why not 365 days, government? Weirdos. But then we have another 4 million borrowers who are in late stage delinquency, 90 to 180 days. And so if we follow the rules as they are borne out, we could have in just a few months 10 million borrowers in default, which that doesn't mean nothing. It's not just your credit score getting kicked. You could have the withholding of your federal benefits, such as tax returns or, in some cases, Social Security checks. What do you mean? Some people are going to be paying on student loans until Social Security? No, but some people co-sign for student loans for their kids or grandkids, and they're getting Social Security. There's some people who are getting Social Security from a disability check or from a surviving spouse or something like that. So it's out there. I know it doesn't seem likely, but there is some overlap with that. And this is going to, put a crunch on people who are getting the coast for over 5 years now. It got paused back when COVID started, and we're just now starting that back up. But I don't want to just beat up people who owe money on student loans. I'm sorry you do. That's got to be tough. I took out student loans. It took me 10, 15 years to pay them off. Got it. A lot of us have been there. Your turn. You don't like it? You took out the debt. You were an adult. You got to vote. So let's talk about some of the numbers here. And then I want to ask you the larger question. What would you do about the student loan debt issue? Fox Business.
And today, 42.7 million borrowers owe more than $1.6 trillion. That's trillion with a T in student debt. And more than 5 million of them have not made a single payment since last year.
Yikes.
A lot of people. Education Secretary Linda McMahon writing this in the Wall Street Journal. Accountability returns to student loans, adding that, quote, colleges and universities call themselves nonprofits, but for years they have profited massively off the federal subsidy of loans, hiking tuition and piling up multi-billion-dollar endowments while students graduate 6 figures in the red. A widely cited 2015 study found that for every dollar of increased federal caps on subsidized loans, colleges raised tuition by 60 cents.
Oh, my God. And so then they talked to Linda McMahon right after that opening statement. Here she is explaining the new regime.
Well, the plan is very simple. We have announced that beginning May 5th,
Today,
you must start to repay your loan. And this is not to in any way try to cause hardships. There are several different payment plans that you can access. If you go to studentaid.gov, there are several plans there that can help you. We also are keeping hours open longer at the service centers and also having them open on the weekend to answer any questions. And there will also be AI help with Aiden, who can answer many questions for you relative to your loan. So we're trying to, to make it easily accessible for responsible folks to pay back their loans, but they need to get on it because there isn't going to be any loan forgiveness program. As you know, the White House press secretary said this afternoon, there's no such thing as loan forgiveness. It just gets transferred to someone else, and that's just not fair.
Amen. All right, so here's my solution, and I want to hear your solution. It's a three-part solution. Number one, end all government aid to universities. Again, with an economic underlying principle, if you subsidize something, you just raise the cost of it. Also, don't subsidize the universities themselves, and don't subsidize the students themselves. So end all government financial aid. There could still be private sector financial aid. You can still come up with a scholarship fund for, I don't know, your cheerleader group or whatever. And then the third step, and this isn't a brain buster either, make everyone pay back their existing loans. That's my three-part plan. What's yours?
The average student who borrows to pay for college now graduates with about $25,000 in student loan debt. That's the average. Some or more. Can I get an amen for that? Yeah, I know, because some folks have more debt than that.
Amen. All right, now it's to $37,000. So clearly his plan didn't work. Adam Kissel, Heritage Foundation, what do we do about this?
Well, we have $1.6 trillion of student debt right now, representing 42.7 million borrowers in the United States. And that's not just students and alumni, that's students who didn't graduate and now have debt. That's parents and grandparents who paid a lot of money for their students who may or maybe didn't finish. So the problem is humongous, and the solutions have to be kind of a tough love set of solutions. So that means having market forces rather than government largesse, plus accountability and some risk sharing by the universities. So if we can make sure that the students and alumni are paying off their debts, paying what they owe, what they agreed to owe, but also making sure that the universities are responsible for the morals of being the kind of person who pays back your loan, as well as the finances, then I think we'd be able to turn the tide.
So I like your idea of college accountability because that wasn't on my list, but I've said consistently on the James Show that if you're upset that you can't pay back your student loan, your gripe shouldn't be with the taxpayers. It should be with your college.
Well, colleges love the tuition and they're addicted to it. So they need tough love too. They are more than happy to take your tuition knowing that a large proportion of the students are not going to graduate. We have colleges in this country that are accredited that get public money and get appropriators money with less than a 10% graduation rate. The idea used to be look to the right, look to the left. One of the three of you is not going to graduate. Well, now look to the right, left, and look at yourself. All three of you are likely to not graduate. But we want your tuition money anyway. So the colleges have to have skin in the game. They have to share the risk.
So how do you make them share the risk?
Well, Congress has to make them do that, and there's a couple of ways to do that. So you can look at the College Cost Reduction Act that's been in Congress, and then you can look at the reconciliation bill, which is the budget bill that's in front of the House of Representatives right now, and Senate's working on their own version. Both of these say that if your students, as they graduate a few years out, are not making enough money compared to, say, a high school diploma holder or the median that should go with that particular degree program, then you're going to have to pay some money back to the government. Or if your students are defaulting on their student loans, wasting the government's money, not paying it back, the college may also have to pay back some of that money itself. So those are the two main ways.
I like the sound of that. I like also, if we have just proven that subsidizing college doesn't work and Pell Grants don't make it cheaper or easier, can we just start by repealing all the programs that have already failed us?
Well, that would be where my heart is. So I think public colleges should generally be on a path, long-term or short-term, to privatization, and that the government programs that subsidize them, they've done a great job on access over the last 100 years. But the cost of access is all of these people who don't graduate, they have debt but no degree, they're working at Starbucks, whereas their friends with a high school diploma are becoming electricians and making 3 times as much money, 5 times as much money. So it's, again, a tough love solution or set of solutions. But if we want people to have better lives, we can't keep pretending that everybody needs to go to college.
All right. Well, Adam Kissel, Heritage Foundation, you sound like a pretty limited government guy like myself. How much did we really accomplish with getting rid of the Department of Education?
There have been some really good steps so far, but Congress controls whether it exists, controls which programs exist, how much money exists. So there's only so much you can do in the executive branch. And so I think we should also look at what's happening in Texas, where Senate Bill 37 is looking at higher ed reform at the state level and doing what some of the other states have started to do, like Florida and Ohio. So even if there's not good news yet for dismantling the department at the federal level, there's a lot that Texas legislators are looking at and working on, including this bill, which has some good policies in it.
So you guys at the Heritage Foundation, Adam Kissel, y'all wrote Project 2025. What does that say about education? Do we know off the top of our head?
It's a great chapter. I didn't write any of it, but I agree with probably everything in it. And it says eliminate the education department, dismantle it.
Yay.
It says, right? It says cut off the funding for lots of programs that we don't even know if they work. Send as much money as possible that among what's left to the states. That state and local is where the action is supposed to be. Fix civil rights problems. All discrimination is bad, whether it helps or hurts the people you like or don't like. Don't have discrimination on the basis of race or sex. Have due process for students who get in trouble. So there's a lot of good stuff in there. And then at the K-12 level, like that all is an authority that deserves to be at the federal, away from the federal and back to the state and local levels. So K-12 reform, again, everything points to ending the education department, returning the money and the projects back to the states.
Well, Adam Kissel, it sounds like a good day for those of us who want these, college solutions. I hope it continues.
I think we're on a good track. Education is the name of the game these days. Higher ed is having its moment for a bunch of different reasons, and people are paying attention to all the things that are broken in education and saying, where's all our money going? And if it's going for this stuff, like these terrible courses that supposedly count for the core in the Ivy League, which I have a book about that's coming out tomorrow, why are we wasting all this money and subsidizing to the tune of billions of dollars these bad colleges and classes that are supposed to be so good?
Adam Kissel, Heritage Foundation. I didn't know you had a book coming out tomorrow that's not in my notes. Please enlighten me.
It's called Slacking, A Guide to Ivy League Miseducation. It looks at the core curriculum, general education requirements across the Ivy League. It shows that the courses that are available to you are almost all terrible in the humanities and social sciences.
Yeah, okay, I believe that.
You can watch Disney movies at Cornell to learn about animals, and that meets your science requirement. At Princeton, you can take a course on shoes and meets your social studies requirement. Things like that. You could take intersectional disability studies and meet your social sciences requirement. I forget which university.
Don't even care.
So we go through, and so it's not Shakespeare, it's not Western Civ, it's not U.S. history. You can fulfill your requirements with any one of hundreds of what they call ways of knowing or distribution requirement courses, rather than getting the best that has been thought and said in the world, as Matthew Arnold used to say.
Right, $1.6 trillion in debt for this, and none of these people can speak Latin or anything. All right, Adam Kissel, Heritage Foundation, thank you very much.
Thank you, too.
If we want to start somewhere, how about we repeal all the programs that haven't worked already? Because when we look at, we talk about the cost of college skyrocketing. Since when? Well, since about the creation of the Department of Education. They rarely put it like that, but they say, I even have the numbers in front of me. Even if you adjusted for inflation, if you went to college the year I was born, 77, $2,600. It was really like $600, but with inflation, that would be $2,607 now. And in inflation-adjusted dollars, that's all the way up to, if you take the average cost, even when you count the little community colleges out there, $11,260. So the cost of college has gone up, 400 something percent? So what we're doing now, and that's adjusted for inflation. So with all the Pell Grants, with all the subsidized student loans, with nationalizing the student loan industry, with all the other things that we thought were helping, I say we start by getting rid of all these programs that were there when it got worse, and all government financial aid. And going forward, make everyone pay back their student loans. Well, this is going to crush some people. Yes. And they will whine very loudly. And then other people going into the humanities will choose a different major. Because so much of this seems to be just a wasted, misplaced use of resources. 48% of college grads with a humanitarian or arts degree said they would have studied something different. And if you're thinking, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people say that. Well, only 24% of engineering degree holders said that. 34% of college grads could have been hired in their current jobs without even getting a degree. Only 27.3%, according to the Small Business Blog. Only 27.3% of college graduates actually work in the field of their degree. $1.6 trillion in debt for that? What's your solution? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is Brett in New Mexico. You're on WBAP. How would you fix this, Brett?
Hey, James. Well, I am one that defaulted after the amount I borrowed was doubled with the interest. And like your guest was saying, I think it does need to go directly back towards the university themselves, the responsibilities. Just like if you filed a bankruptcy, Home Depot, they don't come back and collect the stuff that you got. They have to eat that loss, and it's not their fault. Or if Chevrolet sells you a car that's a lemon, Chevrolet has to eat the cost.
You know what, Brett? That's a great simile. It's like buying a lemon, a car that you thought was going to be, getting you from point A to point B, and not right off the lot, it stinks. That's, you know what? 3 points for Brett, Garrett. Put him on the scoreboard. All right, Garrett, you scored. Keep going, sir.
Because there is like you said, once the loans came along, once FAFSA came along, there's a great pyramid scheme with them forcing you into requirements that have nothing to do with your major. If you look at the European model of college, they go to school for 2 years in exactly what they're wanting to come out with a degree in, versus having to take history and biology and Spanish to become a graphic designer.
Well, you're starting to lose me there, Brett. Wanting to copy Europe usually doesn't work out too well for us.
Yeah. But I personally, I had 20 hours over what the requirement for a graduate degree was, but I did not have a Spanish 4 and a algebra or some higher math that had nothing to do with graphic design. So I had a professor who went to fight to the dean that they ought to have a degree. I should have been long gone. I spent 7 years in college. I went to a community college. I worked the full time. I worked 40 hours my entire 7 years.
Brett, does your job right now require that college degree?
It does not. It has nothing to do with that degree.
And you went into default for all that. All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Brett.
Yep.
Thank you. Cleo, Plano, you're on the James Show. What's your solution for the student loan crisis?
Okay, well, a lot of student loan debt now that is coming up, even though it's a lot smaller, is from the community colleges. Years ago, you used to be able to take, welding, drafting, HVAC, getting your car stuff, auto mechanics. But now they push that to the community colleges. And they do have loans at community colleges. I say bring that back to the high schools, because what they don't realize is a lot of these students, instead of having the alternative track, you have like distinguished STEM track, and you have the other tracks where they don't even require, like in Plano, that you even need to take a foreign language anymore. And it's basically what they consider the dumbed down track, just so they can keep, state funds and get you out of there. but put those tracks back in the back in the high schools. And then you can have these students that can have an alternative track. So when they're 18 and they graduate, they don't have to pay the extra money at community college.
Cleo, that sounds great, but we have kids that are graduating in high school that can't read. Well, I don't think they'll master a blowtorch. I get what you're saying. That's how it should be. But, yeah, you know what? I think you should be job ready with a high school diploma.
Read? Because they're not interested in reading. If you give them something they're interested in, they would do it.
I think you're absolutely right. I was just giving you a hard time. Thank you, Cleo. Plano. Have y'all ever looked at the worst colleges in America? Because when I was at a previous radio station, the worst college in America that year was in my town, so I don't want to name names. I'll tell you off the air if you want to know, Garrett. But this college brought in kids, and only 9% of the incoming freshmen will graduate within 5 years. Not 4 years, 5 years. Only 9%. Most of them take out student loans and get some kind of financial aid. But the average, listen to this, don't wreck your car. The average ACT of an incoming freshman was 15. You only have to have a 17 to play football. So the average student at this college campus was dumber than the dumbest football player on the team by 2 points. That was the average, which means half of them are dumber than that. What a scam that is. There's a whole bunch of people who don't even belong in college. You have no business being in college. Of course you're not going to make it out in 5 years. You're never going to make it out. Probably misspelled book.